But the stupidity doesn't only emerge from the left when it comes to the Supreme Court. Sometimes it emerges from people who are quasi on the right. The latest evidence is Tomi Lahren. So I don't want to rip on Tomi Lahren too much. I think that Tomi Lahren has her heart in the right place sometimes. I think that she hasn't studied these issues particularly well. I think that her ideas on abortion are inane, to put it mildly. And she was on Fox and Friends this morning, and she was talking about Roe v. Wade and soon-to-be Justice Kavanaugh using her vast legal experience to delve into the intricacies of Supreme Court precedent. And here was Tomi Lahren explaining why conservatives really should just let Roe v. Wade alone.
Some of my fellow conservatives who have put it out there that we are, quote, coming for Roe v. Wade. That is a mistake, because we are putting it out there and implying that we are sending a justice to the bench to carry out religious judicial activism, which is a mistake and is unconstitutional. And if we as conservatives are going to imply that, if that's going to be our messaging, we might as well spit on the Constitution. That is not what we stand for.
Read a book. A book. Not lots of them, one. Okay, like one. Not Harry Potter. I mean, like a book about read the Constitution. We can start with that. Read the Constitution and you show me where in the Constitution there's a right to abortion. And then we can start talking about whether this is a religious edict trying to take down Roe v. Wade. I mean, honestly, it's just make a logical argument. Make a good argument. That's not a good argument. And I got into it a little bit with Tomi Lahren over the last couple of days because I suggested, she made a similar argument on Twitter. I said it was a dumb argument. She said, you can't tell me what to do. And I'm getting real sick of people on the right saying to me, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying what you should do if you're an intelligent person. And that would be maybe read enough to defend your position well. Let's be real about this. The reason people oppose Roe v. Wade is not just because they are against abortion. If they were just against abortion, then they would presumably be pushing for a constitutional amendment to ban abortion across the country, or federal legislation to ban abortion across the country. That would be their primary focus, the constitutional amendment. The reason that there are so many people on the right who hate Roe v. Wade is not just because it is an immoral outcome, but because it has nothing to do with the Constitution. I can't name a single person, a single legal theorist on the right who says, I oppose Roe v. Wade because I'm a religious person. Not one. The reason you oppose Roe v. Wade is because it has nothing to do with the Constitution. It is a garbage legal decision. Even people on the left who are honest will acknowledge that while they like the outcome of Roe v. Wade, it has nothing to do with the law and it has nothing to do with the Constitution. And playing into this propaganda effort by the left to suggest that it's just a bunch of religious fanatics who want to overturn Roe v. Wade is deeply irresponsible by Tomi Lahren. Deeply irresponsible. It's also really establishment. I mean, that's the part of this that's so ironic, is that Tomi Lahren and some people who are fans of hers are suggesting that it's anti-establishment to suggest that Roe v. Wade should be upheld, or that we should stay away from social issues. Donald Trump ran on social issues. He didn't run away from them. He ran basically on cultural social issues, and he won. Beyond that, it was the establishment that's been saying for most of my adult lifetime that social issues should be avoided at all costs. Let's focus on economics. Let's focus on foreign policy. I've been saying for years that Republicans running away from social policy is foolish because people actually want to hear about the morality of politics. But I wish that I'm struggling for words here because, again, I don't want to rip on Tomi Lahren, but when you say stuff this ignorantly with this much confidence, then you need to be called out for it because this is just not true and it's not right, and I don't know what you think she's doing here. All of the talk about don't worry about it, it's just speculation. The right is constantly attempting to run away from this issue. So more evidence of this. Tomi Lahren, who I've refrained from criticizing generally because, Tomi does what Tomi does. But Tomi Lahren has now made the case that we should never speak about abortion. This is, of course, because she is pro-choice. Tomi Lahren is pro-abortion. She went on The View and she suggested that it's only religious objection to abortion that was driving the right's objection to abortion. So she was on Fox News Final Thoughts, and she suggested that Republicans only win by staying out of the social issues.
To be honest, the federal government does few things well, and I believe regulating social issues is an area where it fails. Let the churches, the nonprofits, and the community groups step in, not almighty Uncle Sam.
Okay, so I am generally friendly to libertarian arguments, but this is not any social issue when you're talking about abortion. When you're talking about abortion, you're talking about an issue of protecting human life. Okay, by this definition, slavery is a social issue. By the way, Tomi Lahren is very fond of talking about social issues when it suits her purposes. I mean, how many times have you heard Tomi Lahren talk about the flag and patriotism and kneeling for the national anthem and culture? I mean, that's what Tomi Lahren specializes in. She's not exactly a Milton Friedman economist, right? You're not going to hear her sitting there spouting Vienna School of Economics explanations of trade theory, right? That's not Tomi's thing. So for her to say that we are not going to focus in on social issues because otherwise we're never going to win, I think is foolish. Not only is it foolish, let's be real about this. If the right is not fighting to protect human life, then the right is not doing its job. No victory that leaves behind babies in the womb to be carved apart and then flushed down a toilet, no right that does that in the name of victory is winning a victory that is worth fighting for. Victory has to mean something, and one of those things that victory has to mean is standing up for the lives of the unborn. Now, Tomi responded to all of this. She got heavy flack from a lot of folks on the right for saying all of this, that the right should leave behind the social issues. By the way, Donald Trump didn't leave behind the social issues during the election cycle. He was very pro-life during the election cycle, at least insofar as what he had to say. And Tomi then tweeted something out about how she's not going to be cudgeled into believing something that she doesn't believe. No one's trying to cudgel Tomi into believing something she doesn't believe. She's certainly able to believe whatever she wants to believe. The point I'm making is that she's wrong. So she tweeted out, "Do I form my political beliefs based on acceptance from the self-appointed thought wardens of either political party? No, and I never will. You don't have to like or agree with my thoughts, but at least you know they are my own." A couple of things about this. This seems to be the last refuge of people who can't make a good argument nowadays, is that you make an argument and then they say, "You're not going to box me in with your standards." I'm not trying to box you in. Make your argument. I just think your argument sucks. Like, that's not me boxing you in. I've heard the same from several relatively major figures in the past several weeks, that if I say that I don't like something that you've said, that suddenly I'm trying to provoke you into moving your position. No, I'm trying to present a differing position. You can say whatever you want. It's a free country. You can make a bad argument if you want to. Also, the substitution of authenticity for solid thinking is not even an argument. It's an emotional appeal. This idea that you don't have to like or agree with my thoughts, but at least you know they are my own. Right, I assume they are your own, which is why I am criticizing you. Or if they were somebody else's, I'd be criticizing them. The substitution of authenticity, well, he's very authentic in how he feels. Therefore, you really shouldn't question. What they have to say. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I think that's completely nonsensical on virtually every level.
Tomi Lahren joins us now, Fox News contributor. Tomi, always great to see you.
Hey, Tomi.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So when the president nominates a Supreme Court justice, he lets us fight it out, and he went overseas. So let's talk about that. Brett Kavanaugh gets the nomination, and Democrats, for the most part on the left, say he will owe it to guarantee Jeff Toobin and company, he's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. You also say, whoever you nominated, Mr. President, make sure they don't overturn Roe v. Wade. Do you want to expand on that?
Sure. Well, I think that it's important to clarify my statements there because first and foremost, I believe that Judge Kavanaugh is a constitutional conservative, not a religious judicial activist, which is exactly what we want. My problem is with some of my fellow conservatives who have put it out there that we are, quote, coming for Roe v. Wade. That is a mistake because we are putting it out there and implying that we are sending a justice to the bench to carry out religious judicial activism, which is a mistake and is unconstitutional. And if we as conservatives are going to imply that, if that's going to be our messaging, we might as well spit on the Constitution. That is not what we stand for. If we are not going to uphold the Constitution on its merit, who will? That is up to us to do. So that my real problem here, regardless of my views on abortion, pro-life, pro-choice, is the messaging of our Supreme Court justice and how he will handle Roe v. Wade if it comes to that point.
Yeah, I know he's Catholic, so he probably is pro-life, but he has said under oath that Roe v. Wade is the law, and he is a constitutionalist. So moving on to the next topic, we want to talk to you about Trump administration. We've seen people that work for the president just get berated when they're at restaurants with their families, when they're out and about trying to get in their car, when they're at universities. And it happened again. There were demonstrators that were outside of a school in Syracuse because Ivanka Trump was there, and they were chanting, "Shame." What about the children? What's your reaction? Because the left is staying silent on this. Other than the protesters, you don't see the left. Most of the left leaders aren't saying we shouldn't be doing this.
And that's what I find most problematic. And as you guys know, that I've had my own experiences with this. Mine was actually a physical confrontation. Luckily, it was just water.
To you,
but
that's right.
My real problem is when this goes beyond heckling, harassment, water, intimidation, how much worse is it going to get? And what is it going to take for the leaders in the Democratic Party and on the left to stand up against what's happening and to put the message out that this is unacceptable? Because it's going to get worse. The final stages of Trump derangement syndrome aren't just heckling and harassment. They're going to be physical confrontations. And I truly don't believe that that's what the Democratic Party wants for conservatives, is for us to be attacked. But they need to make that very clear, because because until then, there are many of their followers and supporters who do think it's okay to do these things. They think it's their right and they think it's their duty, and that's dangerous.
Well, what do you think the end game is? Is it just to berate somebody, film it, put it on YouTube and make them look bad, or what?
Well, that's part of it. I know, at least in my experience, it was done to be filmed and it was done to put out on social media because people want to be famous or infamous for attacking conservatives. But beyond that, when we have people like Maxine Waters coming out and urging her followers and her supporters to harass conservatives and Trump supporters, there are those that are listening to her that feel it is their right and their duty, as I said, to harass Trump supporters. They feel validated in that. And we have other Democratic leaders and those on the left that throw out terms like Nazi, racist, white supremacist, willy-nilly. That is dangerous because they are putting it out there that it is okay to attack conservatives because they must be bad people. That's wrong.
Right. I think it's also important, too, is that almost no one is going to be serving in government for any side if there's going to be continue to worry about your own security. When I saw Michael Flynn being heckled as he left the courtroom yesterday by people knowing that he gave 33 years of his life for the country and what he did in Iraq and Afghanistan specifically, you realize we got to a very dangerous time.
Well, it just shows the weakness of their arguments and their inability to articulate their political beliefs when they have to resort to harassment and heckling. I think it's honestly beneath the Democratic Party, and I hope that someone stands up and says enough is enough.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. All right, Tomi, thank you very much for joining us out in California, where it is